76% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And according to Forbes, 93% of business owners pay more than legally required to pay in income tax. And nearly 50% of all Americans have bad credit, but not you. At least not anymore. See, this is the School of Wealth, where you learn how to maximize your credit, minimize your taxes, and multiply your assets so you can create generational wealth. Hi, I'm Rondi Lambeth, certified FICO credit professional, author, speaker, and tax strategist. For the last 20 years, I've helped tens of thousands of Americans just like you take control of their money, fix their credit, wipe out their debt, cut their taxes by 50%, and multiply their assets. If you're ready to break free from the rat race and start building a life of freedom and abundance, then you're in the right place. Welcome to the School of Wealth. Hey, Shannon, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Ronnie, for having me.
How's your day going?
You know what? It's a fabulous day.
It's even better that you're here, right?
Yeah, you know what? We see each other often in person, and we do a lot of Zoom, but it's nice to actually do one of these in person.
Yeah. You know, I did a podcast earlier today, and I always, when I'm a guest on other people's shows, I always just say, it's good to be alive.
Yeah.
You know, if you have health issues like I've had in the past, every day, man, every day I wake up and I literally start my every single day with prayer, thanking God for letting me live one more day.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
We
do have a lot to be thankful for.
Yeah. It's a privilege to get old.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, I hate to get old, but I want to get like 150 years old.
I don't know, man.
Think about it. If you could feel the way you feel now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And live
right.
150. I'm not
Right.
saying to be Joe Biden for another 70 years after that.
Yeah.
No, I mean like
the good news
like
is
a 70-year-old life.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, slow down a little bit, enjoy the roses. But I don't think Joe's going to be with us long.
No, I don't think so.
But
I was at my sister cousin is what I call her. I know that sounds weird, like sister wife, but
I know you well enough to know that that's fairly normal.
My cousin Amy, she we grew up as brother and sister, as in when my dad would beat up my mom and vice versa. Her dad is actually my biological uncle. That's my dad's brother.
Right.
So they were both abusive. So 9 months out of the year, we'd not live with our dads because they beat up our moms. And so then we'd live together in housing and Section 8 and stuff. So I call her my sister cousin because technically she's my cousin, but really I grew up with her as my sister. Anyway, I went to her house for Sunday for a barbecue, and her 70-year-old mother was there in a wheelchair, and her 72-year-old husband is there all crippled.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
that's not
15 years away from where I'm at now.
Yeah. And, Ronnie, one of the things that you and I have both been looking at a lot in the last 18 months is we didn't really think a lot about our health when we had lots of it.
Yeah.
And now that we're starting to get to the point going, I don't want it to get any worse than this, we're starting to pay a lot more attention to it and, really look at, okay, there's something to this longevity thing, and how do I maybe stop the aging process, hopefully reverse some of it, get to where this is the worst we feel.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not going to be modern medicine that gets us there.
No.
But I think, there's a lot of options out there in the way that the culture, the way that the media is being forced to portray things now. I think you're going to start to see a lot more that we didn't get to see before. That's going to come out about ways that we can keep ourselves feeling healthy, feeling good, enjoying life into our 90s. I was just in Italy a couple weeks ago with my parents, and I happened to see this stat that the average of people over 80 in Italy was in the 80 percentile of everybody that was born there. 80% of them make it into their 80s. And I'm thinking, we don't have that in the US. What are they doing different? Well, there's a lot of things, but it's all very, very simple stuff.
I saw a report the other day that was the average life expectancy in America has not gone up in like 22 years or something. It stayed the same.
We spend more than I believe it's the next 4 countries combined on healthcare, and yet our mortality rate keeps increasing.
Yeah. And it's just, and I think part of it, like we're on a group chat and I chatted in saying I was going to start 75 hard. And one of our members said, why would you do that? Why would you put yourself through that?
Yeah.
And I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast the other day with Gary Brecka, and Gary Brecka said something like, death is just the slowly acceptance of, or the slowly looking for comfort. So basically saying, if you want death to come quicker, look for comfort in your life. And, you know, I never did a lot of weight training in my younger years when I was a fireman, and even after that, because I always had a real physical job. And so I was always carrying heavy things. So I was very strong. But now at 53, I'm doing more and more weight training.
Yep.
Especially showing all of the life, how much it extends your life.
Absolutely.
The more muscle you have, the stronger your bones are. And one of the things that I'm going to start doing is the farm, because Joe Rogan's talking about it all the time, and that's farmer carry. So I have some kettlebells in my gym. I'm going to take them downstairs and put them outside my front porch. That way, when people come over, they're like, why do you have kettlebells on your front porch?
Yeah.
And I'm going to start just carrying the kettlebells to the end of the driveway or back, or to the end of the cul-de-sac. And I want to start doing that farmer carry.
Yeah.
They're saying like that is an incredible workout.
Well, they say that the number one leading indicator of how soon you will die is your mobility. And if you think about it, once you become wheelchair bound, all your exercise is limited.
Yeah.
Once you can't get out of bed, you're bedridden, everything changes. And there are so many studies that show where the more mobility you have and the longer you have that mobility for, you're able to go to the coffee shop, you're able to go to the grocery store, you're able to care for yourself, you know, and you can be more physical even at 70, 80 years old, that you lose the mobility. And they said that the number one indicator of that mobility is leg strength.
Yeah. That's what I read. Another study said the 3 things to live the longest, most productive, enjoyable life is healthy heart.
Yep.
So no alcohol, which I'm starting to cut out completely, especially if I'm doing 75 hard. Number 2 is lungs. So don't smoke.
Right.
And number 3 is legs.
Yep.
Your squats, your butt, your quads, your hams.
Absolutely.
And,
completely agree with that.
Yeah. So I think I want to live to 150 as long as I feel good.
Yeah.
I don't want to be decrepit in a diaper and all that nonsense.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think
no sense being presidential.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks for being on. I know that's, I like to start the podcast with just conversations, a big intro. You know, I find it odd that they lead into this big intro, and it's like, well, I just read the intro on YouTube or on Spotify.
Right.
So now that we've gotten that out of the way, Shannon Robnett from Boise, Idaho. Let's get started with just like who you are. Did you grow up in Boise? You got kids, your siblings?
Yeah. I moved here when I was 8. My parents left California. I couldn't make my own sandwiches, so I had to get in the car. You know, the old station wagon facing backwards, all the way up here. And I grew up the son of a builder and a third-generation real estate broker. And growing up, that was miserable, because if you weren't gone from the house by 8 a.m. at the latest on a Saturday, you became the indentured servant. You were cleaning up job sites. You were doing all kinds of different things that weren't always fun. And I decided, you know what? I'm not doing this. I'm going to go to college. Went to college for a semester. They wanted me to keep coming back. They wanted me to learn things that I still haven't figured out where those would have applied. Mm-hmm. And to top it off, my younger brother got right out of high school and went to building houses. And back in 94, he built 3 houses. He made about $50,000 in 1994, right out of high school. And I looked at everybody else in my class, and they're in college, and I just went, this is stupid. And so I began to build houses. I quickly learned I did not like homeowners. So I shifted my business to commercial. I've done everything from city halls to fire stations, major medical stuff, schools, gymnasiums, city halls. And every time I got good at what I did, I got fired because I'd finished the building. We were under budget. Everybody was happy. And then I'm unemployed. So I had to keep going and finding work. And I realized that the talent that I had would better serve me and my investors than someone else. And so I really shifted from a for hire type of a position. I began to do some deals, some industrial stuff with a doctor here in town and another real estate agent. And I really kind of found myself loving that part because I was building long-term wealth. And I did a deal and we exited in the beginning of 22. We started it in late 18, and I was doing it with the family office. We built a 180 unit apartment complex. We got all done. The family office got a divorce. So there went my money supply, and so then I had to begin to find capital. And I found that the easiest way for me to do that was to take my resume out to the market and let people know who I was. And I began to syndicate capital. We've done that since beginning of 19 and beginning of 19. And we raised about $74 million for different deals we've done. We've got stuff going in Florida. We've done deals in Texas. We have some assets in Texas and Washington, and then a lot here in Idaho as well. So I've got 3 beautiful children. Between my wife and I, we have 7. And no grandkids yet. I'm okay with that. Love to fly. You and I have that in common. We're both pilots. And love to find ways to make money and let other people pay for my stuff.
Yeah. And, make money, deduct it.
Yeah.
Right? Taxes are a big thing in my life. I talk about it a lot. I learned at a very young age that how much money you make is not as important as how much you keep.
Yeah.
And most people are just ingrained and taught and brainwashed from childhood. Go to school, get good grades, go to college, get a job, and they only focus on offense.
Yeah.
Imagine if you're playing football, only offense. That's it.
Yeah.
And we see games like that, 50 to 45.
Right.
But so I was taught at a young age, like focus on defense and learn the rules, the playing field of money. So make money, but keep as much as you can. And learn the rules. And if you know the rules, then you keep more. I was telling you earlier before we went on, in 2023, I had to pay taxes, and I had to pay $356.
Right.
So millions of dollars in revenue,
Yep.
$356. And it wasn't because I had millions of dollars of losses. It's because I was able to, I understand the rules and I applied the rules.
Well, and the thing that I think a lot of people, like you and I, have spent a lot of time learning. And I think that a lot of people along that route of, go to school, go get a job, didn't really learn to do their own investigation.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that a lot right now with kids getting out of college and they've got a liberal arts degree, and it's not paying what they think, but they didn't do the research and didn't ask themselves the question of what's this going to pay when I'm done? People don't ask that question of their accountants either.
Yeah.
They need to be looking at it. They need to be doing some self-study. There always has to be your own element of what do you know about what you're doing, because you need to know enough to be dangerous. And then you need to get a professional involved, right? I remember sitting down with an accountant I used to have a couple, almost 20 years ago, and I would be throwing scenario after scenario at her, and we would structure things backwards. And then finally I realized that she didn't know what I knew. She knew how to fill out forms and abide by the code. And then I realized that if I wasn't coming up with these scenarios, we wouldn't be doing that. And it's been decades since I paid a really big tax bill. And last year I was in the same boat as you in 23, and it's because of how I play the game. And it's not about, income versus non-income. It's not like you have to have losses, but Rondi, this, one of my favorite investments that I have is my airplanes, right? My son and I just went out on Sunday, went backcountry flying, had a great time, dropped it back off at the flight school that rents it out. And I think my income last month was $22,000 or $24,000 off of my airplanes. And the flight school maintains them. They insure them. They wash them. They fuel them. They do everything with them. But when I bought them, I depreciated them. And so I took these big losses with loans attached to them that allowed me to write off. The last plane I bought was a $400,000 airplane. I wrote the whole thing off and actually wound up getting more back from the IRS than I put into my down payment, and the flight school pays for it.
Yeah.
And I make money on that. So now I look at that and I go, not only did I put $80,000 down, so I've got $80,000 invested that's making me this money, but I got $132,000 savings from the IRS immediately. And then it produces, how do you calculate a revenue that you get off of a negative money that you put in? I put in 80, I got back 132. I don't have any money in this deal.
Yeah,
I
and
got
you continue to
paid
get money monthly now.
100%, right? So
Yeah.
I'm at an infinite return and have been since day one, but people don't look at how they can structure that, how they can do that in their life. And it doesn't matter what it is you like to do. There's always a way to do it, you know?
Yeah, and it's if you're sitting there asking the question, how do I deduct this? It's the wrong question. Or I'm sorry, if you're asking your accountant, can I deduct this? Can I deduct this? The answer is almost always going to be no. That's the wrong question.
Right. If you're asking your accountant, for sure.
Even with ChatGPT, if you go in there, for example, I love camping.
Right.
And I didn't want to camp though in a little camp trailer or in a tent.
Right.
So I went and bought $1 million bus, a luxury bus, 45
That's not camping, by the way. Just I think it's called glamping.
I think it is glamping. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was $1 million, 45-foot long diesel pusher with 4 slides and the whole thing.
Yep.
This big Prevost bus.
Yep.
Instead of asking my CPA, can I deduct this, which they would have said no.
Right.
I asked myself, how can I deduct it?
Right.
Well, I started renting it. I rented it every year that I had it at Burning Man.
Yep.
For $35,000.
Yep.
And I would tape off, and everybody's like, it's going to get ruined. No, you tape off all the vents, you tape everything off, and then there's a big cleaning fee on top of it.
Yeah.
So,
and
it paid for the whole thing.
And it's like Tom Wheelwright famously says, if you want to change your tax, you have to change your facts. The way you tell the story is everything. Yeah. I have another buddy of mine, loves to fish, right? I had him start a YouTube channel
on fishing.
Mm-hmm. And he's getting views and he's getting stuff and he's advertising his lures and he's talking about the stuff. And he's like, really, that's all I have to do? And I said, yes, that's what you have to do, because you are telling me and the world that I want to become a professional fisher person. Well, you don't just wake up one day and become a professional. But all along the way, you have the ability to write off your trips. You have the ability to write off your boat and the use of it, all of those things. But if you go to your accountant, like you said, and say, what do I do here? Yeah. What can I do? That's always the wrong question. And the other thing that a lot of people do, Rondi, and you see this all the time, is they ask the right question at the wrong time.
Yeah. And sometimes to the wrong person.
Well, that's true. Yeah. But if you're asking your accountant, what can you do anytime after January, you're already smoked.
Yeah.
Right. You need to be having that. I always tell everybody, you need to meet with your accountant in right now. May is a great time to meet.
Behind if you meet with them in May.
Well, but I mean, if you're meeting them in May about what you're going to do in 2025, right? And you're going to have this sit down and you go, man, this is what my year looks like so far. This is what I think is going to happen. They're done with the rush of taxes. Their brain is open and you can kind of lay things out. And then you need to get back with them in November. Make sure you're on track. Make sure the things that you thought to purchase were going to happen. We've got tax changes coming with the big, beautiful bill. We've got things that are going to happen. Where are you going to get with that? That's probably going to pass sometime in June. So by July, there'll be a lot of information out about it. Getting in with your accountant in July and August and planning your year. We came to the end of last year and I went out and bought $450,000 worth of heavy equipment, And that's easy to do now. $170,000 for an excavator just goes like that. Skid steer's now $85,000. But I went and bought that, financed it all. Cat had a 0 down, 0% interest. Took advantage of that. I'm now making payments on it. We're using it, but I was able to take all of that depreciation into last year. I was only able to get 40%, but of the $400,000, I got $100,000 right off the top of my income. Well, I didn't need it, but I was still able to bank that. So next time I need it, I got it.
And when the big, beautiful bill gets approved, going to have 100% bonus depreciation
Be
added
back.
back.
Yeah.
So what you're going to do, if it was me, I would sell those heavy equipment to a newly formed LLC.
I've already got it planned, Rondi. I'm going to upgrade them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to sell it and then get new ones or whatever.
Yeah.
And you'll pay the recapture tax, but if there is any recapture tax.
Well, you're gonna pay recapture on 40% to reclaim it 100%. So
exactly.
it'll offset. But again, if you go ask your accountant, hey, I just bought this last year, the big new beautiful bill went through, what should I do? They're gonna go, well, what do you need for this year? They're not gonna come up with that kind of a strategy. And it's unfortunate, but it's back to people aren't asking, are these really the rules?
Yeah.
And they think because they're asking a professional, it's not like you'd go to a dentist and go, I'm going to get a second opinion, but you really should. And you should be talking to professionals that are actually doing it, people that are actually taking advantage of it.
I look at it this way. Your CPA, your accountant's really the bookkeeper, but if we'll consider your accountant's also a CPA or an enrolled agent, they're not necessarily tax professionals. There's nothing that says CPA is a tax professional. Some of them are, but most of them are not. They're just entrepreneurs trying to get as many customers as they can, do the least amount of work and the most amount of profit.
Yep.
And your average CPA is the referee at the football game.
100%.
If you're losing the football game, you got a minute left, you don't call a timeout and run over to the referee. You talk to your coach. But that's what most people do, is they think the CPA is going to help them. And that's not their job. Their job is to file the taxes and make sure you follow the rules.
Right.
And if you start thinking of that, and for the longest time, Shannon, I used to think, why don't business owners do defense? And I've never, up until recently, I could never figure it out. And now with what I'm doing, sitting down with business owners that owe, $100,000 or more in taxes, and I'm sitting down with them, I think I figured out why business owners don't actively play defense and learn the rules. And I think it's because they're overworked. They're looking at it as, I have so many different hats. I got to be the CEO. I got to be the salesperson. I got to do this. And that's the first thing that they offset, not realizing that CPA is not necessarily their best friend. Like your CPA you're with Anderson. They're more like strategists, advisors.
I consult with them.
Yeah.
But I have a separate CPA that knows what we're
files
doing.
The taxes.
But the other thing is, it's also one of the easiest things for people to outsource, because you have to be quite a company to have a CPA on staff.
Yeah.
So most people get comfortable with the outsourcing,
Mm-hmm.
and instead of looking at it going, let's just take Amazon for a minute. Last week, I was in Florida with a buddy of mine. He is one of the most profitable Amazon DSPs that they have, and that's a designated service provider. Amazon has literally outsourced all the liability, but kept all of the write-offs. So Amazon does the service work on the vans. They lease the vans themselves, or they own the van themselves, and they lease them to you based on mileage. They have, the fuel, the maintenance, the tires, all of that they take. So when they're putting new tires on, they're taking the immediate deduction on that, not giving it to you.
Yeah.
What you have is the headache of the 170 employees. You get the liability, right? Amazon takes all the benefit. And it's how you see them grow so exponentially, is because at the end of the year, they have millions of dollars in this particular gentleman is running like 85 vans. They've been giving him about 20% of his fleet has been upgraded in the last 12 months to the Rivian van. Now they're getting, green credits for that, but they're getting new vans. They're constantly updating their fleet. Well, all those are going into different leasing companies that all flow upward, because there's limits as to how much 179 you can take. But I guarantee you, they've got it routed so that all of that is going as depreciation. And now you're buying an $85,000 van and writing the whole thing off right now against real live after-tax profits.
Yeah.
And they're just wiping it out.
And that's the difference between your average small business owner and Amazon, the big businesses. The structures that I do, for example, when I restructure someone's business, every single Fortune 500 company does it this way. Every
Absolutely.
single one of them.
Absolutely.
And when I share it with small business owners, their heads explode. They're like, I don't understand it. And so I've come up with a way now it's very simple to understand.
Right.
And they just don't realize what the Fortune 500 companies are doing. Like Apple, for example. Apple was paying $40 billion a year in corporate tax, including what in California.
Mm-hmm.
So what they did is they sold their IP, their intellectual property, to a newly formed company that's also called Apple, but it was incorporated in Ireland, where the corporate tax rate is
Right.
12%.
Right.
So then they sold their IP. They had to pay taxes on that, capital gains, big deal. Long term is a flat rate. Now they're able to send tens of billions of dollars out of California, out of the United States to Ireland.
Yep.
And they paid 12% versus leaving it in America paying 39 to 40%.
Right.
So right there's 70% savings, basically the same company.
Yeah.
So, and we can do it the same way. We just set up a company in Wyoming.
Absolutely.
And we extract the money out of California.
And I
it to
did
Wyoming.
that for 4 years when I lived in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
You know, I had profits going to Puerto Rico. I was claiming those as a Puerto Rican resident. It was beautiful. Zero tax bill down there on the federal side, 4% on the state side. And it was awesome, right? But what I learned during that 4 years of exile, because everybody, you know, look, Puerto Rico's awesome, right? It's a great place to visit. Living there is a whole different story that we can spend hours going into. But, you know, the whole thought is the things that I learned down there allow me to do that without leaving where I want to be.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, yes, there's basic things that you can do. There's things that are slightly more complicated. You know, I mean, I had my parents, you know, they wanted to buy a 500 SL at the end of the last year, right? Well, it's under 6,000 pounds. You can't depreciate it. Well, yeah, you can. You just put it in a leasing company, lease it back to yourself. Well, that was simple enough. Then we just set up auto pay. Payments are being made. Now they're making money in another company, and they have paid a lot less taxes. And so there's ways to do that. You just have to think it through, right?
Yeah. 2 of my newest clients are from Puerto Rico because the wives are done with living there.
Yeah.
They want to come back. And what I showed them last month, I went to Texas and spoke at an event. And after speaking, they came up, they're like, we don't have to live in Puerto Rico anymore.
Right.
We can go back to Atlanta. I'm like, sure.
Yeah.
And they're like, we still don't have to pay the income tax? Not at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, if you just structure it right.
Yeah. And there's and Puerto Rico's a great one to say if that's what you want to do, right? It's not terrible, right? But there's other ways to do it. There are so many different ways to do it. Again, like Tom Wheelwright says, if you just change your facts, you can actually change your tax.
You already know the game is rigged, but what you might not know is there's a legal way to flip the script. I'm hosting a live 3-day workshop called Winning the Tax Game. Inside, I'll show you exactly how I've paid just a few $100s in income tax over the last 10 years, legally, ethically, and by the book. You'll learn how to turn your biggest expenses into the biggest business tax write-offs. You'll learn how to bulletproof your assets from frivolous lawsuits and how to play by the real IRS rulebook, the one the wealthy use. If you're a business owner and you're sick of giving 30 to 50% of your profit over to your silent partner, the IRS, then go to winningthetaxgame.com and reserve your seat. If you're listening to this right now, use promo code School of Wealth at the checkout to get $100 off the price of admission. Let's stop donating to the IRS. It's time you learn how to win. So go to winningthetaxgame.com and get registered today. You know, you just spent, how long were you in Italy?
10 days.
10 days.
Yeah, that was a write-off.
And can you, do you mind sharing that?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
So my parents, they sold their primary residence, and they were allowed a $500,000 deduction. They had another $500,000 that they had.
Everybody gets it. So as individual, you get $250,000. If you're married, you get $500,000.
Yep.
I just want to clarify because you said they got it, but everybody gets that.
And so they took that other $500,000. We stuck it in a family foundation, not a family foundation, a foundation, because a family foundation, you can only put away up to 30% of your income. A foundation, you can put up to 60% away. It's a 501c3, registered that, did all that stuff. And everybody goes, oh, well, now you got to run a nonprofit. No, you don't. You make donations to other nonprofits. So I was with my parents, and my mom goes, I just read the book Under the Tuscan Sun, and I'd love to do a Under the Tuscan Sun tour.
Okay.
Well, me being the smart aleck that I am, I pull out ChatGPT and I go, give me a 10-day itinerary complete with reservations for restaurants and hotels. There's my 10-day itinerary. I show it to my mom. She looks at me and says, when are we going? Well, then I was stuck, right?
Yeah.
So then what do I do? So what we did was I said, Mom, I need you to find a nonprofit that aligns with where you and Dad are at and what you want to do with your funds. And I said, I need you to tell me where that is in Italy. So we found something. We came back. We did a stateside comparison because you have to make those donations to a 501c3 in the United States. We went, we saw it, we visited it. So we were able to cover our airfare. We were able to cover part of our car. We were able to cover part of our meals. We were able to cover part of our hotel. But the biggest thing was the airfare there and back. So we were able to do that. We came back. We make a donation to the 501c3. The whole thing now becomes an expense as board members of that. All 4 plane tickets were a cost. Half of the hotels and half of the meals and all of that kind of stuff. And so it's about understanding what you need to do. Another trick that I'll tell you what we did we took and we made all of the grandchildren board members. And in the bylaws, you have to attend the annual meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So now my parents, at the expense of the foundation, are having all 7 of their grandchildren with their spouses come to last year was Puerto Vallarta. Who knows where it's going to be this year? And they're going to meet and they're going to spend 3 days, 4 days planning where the donations are going to go. The donations will be made. The foundation only requires you to donate 5% of the value of the foundation every single year. And there's not really anything written about expenses. They have to be reasonable. Mm-hmm. Well, if you've got the board members traveling for the board retreat, no problem. So that is what they're doing. And they'll have all their grandchildren with them for 4 days, somewhere cool, and they'll decide what to do here with the money. And, so it's about understanding what you need to do.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite is creating a private foundation. And that's one of the only ways as a W-2 employee you can actually play the tax game. Because a W-2, there's not much. It's 401ks, HSAs, IRAs.
Yeah.
Short-term rental is one that's amazing.
Yeah.
Because then you can qualify as a real estate professional, which you and I are both real estate professionals. Correct. Which means we get to depreciate real estate that's appreciating in value, but we can depreciate it against our passive income.
As well as our active.
Because we're real estate professionals. Yep. But as a W-2 person, you can't claim it unless you do a short-term rental. The private foundation is one of the only other ways. And it's fairly easy to set up.
And this is the thing that I think a lot of people miss out on. Most people are benevolent anyway, right?
Yeah. I tithe. I just tithe now through my foundation.
Absolutely.
Versus me personally.
But what it allows you to do is it allows you to set aside when you have big windfalls, when you have things that happen. Like with my parents had $500,000 over and above their allowance for deduction that they were going to pay 20% on. Mm-hmm. Well, that would have been $100,000.
Yeah.
So they put it inside the foundation. They are very benevolent people. It's going to go that direction. It's going to get taken care of. But now this year, they don't have any real asset sale or anything like that happening. Great. The foundation doesn't need any money today, right? And so it allows you to do that. And I think a lot of people get hung up in the fact that I've got to have millions of dollars. In fact, when I set up mine, the attorney that did it said, well, don't you need a couple $1 million to do this with? And I said, no. I said, I want to do it with a couple $100 a year just to get it going, because the thing is, if you put it off until you have those big events, you paid $1 million in taxes to get there.
Yeah. I set it up for my clients with putting $30,000-$50,000 in a year because it's easy to set up. It's easy to maintain.
Setup costs are write off.
Yeah.
So now the cost to set it up is a third or two-thirds of what it was going to be. And then it becomes something that you can leave a legacy and you can make a lot of really great decisions with it, but you can do it in your time, not the tax year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of my favorite things is, obviously tax reduction, flying my airplane, scuba
Mhm.
diving, all of
Mhm.
that stuff.
Yeah.
And then I do the same thing. I have annual meetings required that everyone has to go. So my children and my grandson are directors of
Yep.
one of my companies, of a company I control because I don't own anything anymore. So I can control it. I'm the director. And we go somewhere. Either one year we went to Costa Rica, another year we went to Dominican Republic. I think this year we're going to go to Hawaii. I was there 2 months ago for the nonprofit that you and I are both part of. And what's interesting? I've been to Hawaii many, many times, and I never had a good time, ever. And this time I went, I had an incredible time.
Yeah.
People were nice. I was like, what changed? Was it
Yeah.
COVID? And then I realized it when I was sitting at Starbucks. I was literally thinking, like, what has changed from the last 5 times I've been here? I was like, oh, it was the person that I used to go with to Hawaii has changed. That's what's
Yeah.
changed.
Yeah. Well, if
So
you
and I can't
change
wait
your
to go back now.
if you change your facts,
Yeah. So I can't wait to go back. But another thing I like, and that's really helped me uh, really become rich. And I think it's one of the fastest ways to become rich and wealthy and become financially free is you got to play offense.
Mhm.
You got to play defense.
Yep.
And what a lot of people miss is the credit part of it. Really having good, solid personal credit, then establishing business credit if you have a
Right.
business, and then leveraging, Kiyosaki talks about it all the time, other people's money. And they miss out on what that actually means. It's not just going to the bank and getting a loan.
Right.
So I know you've maximized credit. What are some of the things that you've used credit for, and how's that helped you with your business and your journey as an entrepreneur?
Yeah. I mean, you know, everything we do has an element of credit to it. But the one spin I will add, especially in the digital age that we live in, is your personal credit can be your personal brand. It's amazing how often what we're currently doing in our lives can lead to business ventures. Um, we were talking earlier in the podcast about our health journey, right? Uh, I'm I'm getting ready to step into the syndication world in a um, in an in a peptide in a TRT clinic that we're going to roll out nationally, and I'm taking my personal journey and using that as my credit, along with my syndication journey as my credit to leverage other people to join me in this journey to not only get healthier but to make money doing it, right? And it's not that we're not starting an MLM, we're not hawking vitamins,
Yeah.
right? But at the same time, don't overlook your personal brand and how you're looking at the angle of the world that you're seeing, right? But when you bring it back to business credit, we have, I've opened a Regis Center in one of my buildings this last year. So I used business credit. I went to my local bank and I said, hey, let's do this business credit. And they go, well, you're starting a business that doesn't have any credit. And I said, okay, let's put it in a leasing company underneath my construction company that has credit. And then let's create it that way. So we did that. So now I buy $150,000 worth of cubicles and desks and all that kind of stuff. And now that new business has business credit and my construction company has business credit. And so by doing that, now I've got multiple places that I can pull from. I can go get business credit cards. I've got every platinum card out there, right? And I alternate between them. I use those, but I'm building that out with something I already know is going to cash flow. And then I'm able to go, hey, let's do short term. Let's do some long term. Let's do some installment. Um, and we're able to maximize that to where now it starts out that it's tied to this other company, Phoenix, that has 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, 8 years of history. Now it's tied to this new company because I combined the two, and now they're symbiotic that way. I took another tip from you. My kids all have phenomenal credit because I put them on my credit cards. Now I didn't give them the card.
Right. They don't get the
In
card.
fact, they didn't know they had it, but
Yeah.
they were asking, why do I have, I just got out, my youngest just got out of college and he's got a 780 credit score, right?
Yeah.
He's like, how can I have that? And I said, well, you've got 12 years of credit with $100,000 available at any one time. This is how you do it, right? And so by leveraging that and understanding that, it doesn't mean I use it. It doesn't mean I am constantly maxed out on my credit cards, but it means that we do not pay cash for anything. Even if I go to the cat store and I need we're buying a plate compactor, right? Doesn't matter. We don't use their credit. We put it on the card. We pay it off. If they've got terms that we like, year-end sale, all of that went into build the business credit because I wouldn't put it in my name. You guys want to make the sale. You figure out how to get me qualified, right? Yeah. And so you're pushing that around, but as you're building that out, there's times when your credit may not be great. You may have, all the wrong things happen in a year, but you've got business credit that it doesn't affect. That's always the way you do it.
Yeah. The other day I paid for parking and it just irritated me because I hate paying cash for anything. I hate it.
Yeah.
Just because I don't want to try to, obviously you can deduct it, but I'd rather have a credit card receipt. And so I'm downtown. It was for the nonprofit you and I are part of, and paying for parking. I've gotten this habit where I don't carry credit cards anymore because of Apple Pay. I have everything on my watch or on my phone. So I got in this parking garage, went to pay. There's no way to pay. So I had to put $20 bill in.
Yeah. Well,
I hated it. I still got the receipt, but I was like,
yeah, but remember when we all went to Mexico?
Oh yeah.
We showed up down there. There's 7 guys. We don't have $650 cash between us. We got every kind of card you want. We probably had in the room, $600,000 in credit available in credit cards and couldn't buy dinner.
I know.
It was like, oh man, what were we thinking?
I carry cash in my travel bag.
Yeah.
So I always have like $1,000 to $2,000 in cash. And it saved my butt so many times.
You didn't that time. You only had $450 because I got it all from you.
Yeah.
I cleaned you out. But it's funny because we get into those cycles and,
I had spent it the week before with Amanda when we went.
Well, you were already
in
there.
Cabo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think the Dolphins was like $600.
Yeah.
And that's not tax deductible. So I'll pay cash because a lot of times I found they don't want to pay, especially overseas or internationally, they don't want to pay the 15% processing fees. So if you pay them cash, just, hey, can I get a 20% discount? They'll do it in a heartbeat.
Yep.
If it's not tax deductible, then I'll pay cash.
Right.
But that's about it. Like,
right.
I guess the neighbor kids, when I was there, they watched the farm, so I paid them in cash. But
I'll tell you what, even the Girl Scouts have gotten smart enough. They don't take cash anymore. No. They're all about the card, baby.
Yeah. Speaking of that, do you see that the IRS is no longer going to accept checks as of September 30th of this year?
Really?
You can only do direct deposit or EFT. That's it. So even the IRS, and it's because Doge found that would save Americans almost $650 million if they could get rid of all the paper accounting.
Mm-hmm.
So Doge put that through. I guess Trump did an executive order that no more checks as of September 30th.
That's going to be interesting.
Yeah. So one of the things that I like doing with my credit cards, how often do you get those 0% interest offers?
I don't know that I pay attention. I'm sure I've got them available.
If you want to start getting it, I bought a lot of real estate doing this, and it's the American Airlines City Executive Card. So it's the black card.
Well, I have that because you recommended I get it, and I went out and got it.
So they will, if you pay that off and then don't use it for a month, the following month they will send you your statement. You have to do paper statements, otherwise this doesn't happen. They will send you an extra page, and that extra page has 3 checks on it. But you can do a balance transfer at 0% interest for 18 months for 3 points. So I have a $50,000 card, and every 18 months or so, I will pay that 3%. So I'm pulling $50,000 off the card at 0%. So it's cost me $1,500. And now I can use that to go buy a Section 8 rental. And then I got 18 months to stabilize it and then I can refinance it with a traditional loan.
So you're
pay off the
paying
credit
you're
card.
paying 2% annually. If you really look at it, you're paying
Basically, I'm paying
3
2%.
points
Yep.
for 18 months. So you're paying
Exactly.
2% and you're getting that loan.
But I also get 2% cash back on that card, or
Yeah,
2% points,
right.
and I get American Airlines points.
Right.
So
Right.
really, it's not costing me anything.
Right.
Because like when we went down to Cabo, that whole trip was all points, the airfare, the hotel. So I really like using credit.
And that's another thing that I do every 18 months or so. We've got a business card that we use. I accumulate the points on that. Every 18 months or so, I go buy myself a nice watch with the points.
Yeah.
It's just the way it works, right? You get a check back, and you go out and you get something nice for yourself.
Yeah.
If you get just a shareholder's perk.
If you get depending on what kind of watch you buy, like this one is worth 3 times what I paid for it.
Yeah.
It's one of 200, and they've never made it ever again. They never will, allegedly. And I think a lot of times that, when they say that, like, this is it, we're not making it, they don't make it. Just like my Ferrari over there. They made 599 of them.
Right.
And that is it. And they've never made it since.
Yep.
So it goes up in value every day. I don't drive it, I don't drive the wheels off of it, but I drive it enough to maintain the maintenance and stuff on it. And, it's just all part of the game. If you can play the game, that silly saying is like, don't hate the player, hate the game, or whatever it is. But
but it's true, right?
Yeah.
It's if you just look at the surface and say, this is what they said, then I believe you deserve what happens to you next.
Yeah.
It's when you ask the question of, what are my other options? And I think that's what's gotten me into every dollar I've ever made. Because I could have just got out of school and said, well, I'm going to go to college. I'm going to stick with this. I'm going to go to work for somebody else. I'm going to let them tell me when to show up, when to go home, when my vacation is, how much I'm going to get paid. But every single time I had the opportunity, I asked the question, what's my other option? And Rondi, you and I both know it hasn't been home runs every single day.
No.
We have had some knocks. We have had some bruises. We have had to pick ourselves back up by our bootstraps. That part's not fun. But at the end of the day, when you can have complete autonomy because you're constantly asking questions and asking, is that really how this has to happen? And I think that, for those that ask that question, they're going to find some fantastically different results. They're going to find things that are going to be way better than what is fed to you. Things are going to be much easier in the long run, because you have options, you have choices. I recently got a Facebook message that was forwarded to me from a kid I went to school with. Still running a delivery job. Never asked the question. Always worked for a guy, was there a long time, company closed, he's out of work. Guy's 53 years old, man. And he has no options between here and retirement. And it's sad. But if you're asking the questions, there's always another way to do it. Are you willing to put the energy in? And I guarantee you will find yourself in a completely different stratosphere at the end of several years of doing this if you're just asking the questions.
Yeah. You remember that first Zoom meeting when you, on our nonprofit, so we're in a forum, there was 7 of us, now there's 6 of us. Remember what Doug said about me? So everybody basically has the same personality.
You're the only one that has a slight chance of being employable.
Yeah. And up until about 2019, because in 2019 I hired 50 people. I had a staff of over 50 people. Up until then, I pushed this narrative of entrepreneurship, business owner. And what I realized after having 50 people in the office every day is not everybody's cut out to be a business owner, for one. And number 2, not everyone should be doing it. Number 3, not everybody wants to do it. Some people just want a good, safe, fun, secure, upward bound business.
Yeah. Well, or upward bound investment, right?
Yeah.
I have a couple of my investors, very successful doctors. They love what they do. They don't ever want to not be a doctor, but they want to get to where the doctor part is an option faster.
Yeah.
Right. And so I've helped them through different strategies that have allowed them to make investments instead of paying taxes. Right. I don't have to perform near that great if I'm saving you 25% on your taxes. And instead of investing only 100 grand, you're able to put in 100 and a quarter, 135. We can get there with 7%. We can make it act like a 15% return if you're compounding that over 4, 5, 10 years, right? And there's just a lot of things like that where it's understanding that. And these guys, they love what they do. They keep doing what they do, right? And yet, the entrepreneur, and this is the other thing that I've learned this last 7 months, because I've hired the same coach you have, and thank you for the recommendation, by the way. But one of the things that he has helped me understand is just because you're the business owner doesn't mean you have to be involved in all the decisions. It doesn't mean you have to be able to action on all the things. My father can do everything that was ever required in him building a building. He could plumb it, he could wire it, he could frame it, he could lay the block on it, he could do anything. And often he did. But that allowed him to build 1 or 2 buildings a year. I currently have about $14 million currently under construction. We're getting ready to start another $40 million project. We have another $60 million project by the end of the year if things go well. There's no way I could be all things to all people. But what I've realized through the coaching is that I need to be the visionary. And I need to find the people that love to be the in the weeds people, to be I have a guy I moved out of one role into another role that is absolutely having a blast in the field. He's very social. He's got 60 subcontractors that want to talk to him every day. And so in that whole thought process of I need to be an entrepreneur to do the things that Rondi and Shannon are talking about, you don't. You can still do what you love, but you need to work with the people that love to do the things that you don't know and don't want to do and not feel guilty about it. And I think the guilt was the part that hung me up.
Yeah.
That I've really had a lot of breakthrough in just my personal thought process about, I don't know how to do that. I don't want to know how to do that. I'm okay not knowing how to do that as long as I'm getting the result that I want and I've built the team efficiently enough that it happens without me. Like I said, I was gone all last week. A week and a half before that, I was in Italy. My company's never done better.
Yeah. Mike really helped me with that as well. His name is Mike Taylor. If anybody listening to this or watching this wants a or introduction to Mike, just send me a DM, reach out, and I'll send you Mike's information. But he really helped me a lot with it. Prior to my heart attack, I was working 65, 70 hours a week.
Yeah.
And that's not exaggeration.
No.
And I was involved in everything.
Yeah.
Now I work 2.5 hours a week in my credit repair and debt settlement business.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
I do a 1 hour
Oh, I
meeting.
know. When I came over here, dude, you're sitting out on the patio with the dog.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I mean, I put
Watching
in
the squirrel.
I put in a full 4.5 hours, 5 hours today, and you didn't even do that.
Yeah. I every Monday I meet with my entire staff and I let them tell me what they did last week. They just told me what they did for fun.
Right.
And then I'll give them a little bit of education coaching. And then after that, I do a 1.5 hour meeting with my leadership team. That's it for those 2 businesses. I'm done. And Mike helped me with that. And the other thing that I started implementing after hiring Mike was when the staff comes to me with a question, I respond with, what's the 3 solutions?
Yeah. Yeah.
And now what I'm finding is I don't get questions anymore. Now it took a year for staff to figure it out.
Right.
But I told them, if it costs less than $100, I don't want to know anything.
Right.
And if it's a customer wants a refund, you don't need to ask me.
Right.
Or if whatever it is.
Yep.
And then even if it's over $1,000 or $100, I want to know what the solution is.
Right.
And now they're starting to build this confidence and they have permission just to do it.
Well,
I don't know how any of it works anymore.
right.
Like, literally.
And that was the thing. That was the number one takeaway I got from Dan's book. Buy back your time.
Oh yeah.
It's the 1-3-1. What's the one problem? Because we start and Susie's not happy, and then this and that. I just one at a time. What are your 3 solutions, and what's the one thing you do? The only thing that I've added to that is put the last sentence in there. If you don't respond in 48 hours, I am going to make this decision. And it scared my staff because they're like, are you serious about that? Are you really serious about that? That if I don't hear from you, and I go, look, man, you have a get out of jail free card. If I don't respond and you make a decision, you kept the company moving. But if we had to wait for me for every A-OK,
yeah,
that's ridiculous. Right?
I do that. I have people reach out to me. Like I had some over the weekend reach out to me. I knew him from a mastermind that I paid $100,000 a year to go to. And he's like, hey, I got some financial problems. I need you to help me with my credit. I said, great. Here's the phone number for the office. He goes, no, I want to work with you. I'm like, no, you do not.
Yeah.
The last person in the company outside of the tax strategy,
right?
If it's a credit or debt settlement, you don't want me involved in it.
No.
Because it's going to get so slowed down that it's just not a good idea. So I used to, prior to having all these staff, I used to have this entrepreneur mindset that everybody should start a business. Everybody should be an entrepreneur. And then when Doug said I was the only one in the group that was the only one that was employable.
I think he did use the word remotely.
He did. He said remotely employable. Look, I was a fireman. I excelled at that. I was a garbage man. I excelled at that.
I've never had a job in my adult life.
Never?
Never.
No.
My brother actually has never had a W-2.
Yeah. I think Brady said he's never had a job, even as a teenager.
Yeah. My brother was the same way.
Yeah.
He always was working, doing something that was entrepreneurial, and has never had a W-2.
And so for the longest time, I could not comprehend that mentality because I know the benefits of it. I also know the struggles of it. And now what I realize is some people aren't meant for that. And if after having the heart attack is really when this sunk in, was if I had to, I could go work for somebody. And I think that if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, you go into sales and you become an entrepreneur. And you work on yourself and you become the best version of yourself.
I mean, one of our former forum mates had that, and it played out very, very well for him because he was the entrepreneur to that multi-million dollar business, that he was the idea guy and had somebody on top that was an execution specialist that just absolutely rocked it. And at the end of the day, he was able to do way more than he ever thought possible by being that entrepreneur. Patrick Bet-David talks about it a lot in what he does, that there's no need to necessarily be the guy on top.
Yeah.
But there's a way
to
support the guy on top and carve out your own niche and be your own thing. And again, if you're playing with the right game, you can shorten the need to do even that with how you play the game and how you pay your taxes.
Yeah. Because when I really started doing a lot of thinking, and I'm not going to call it soul searching, but after the heart attack, because the doctor said you can't go back to work. And I'm like, well, this is not. I
remember that was driving you nuts, bro.
Yeah. So I just decided, well, I'm just going to cut what was causing the stress, the credit repair and debt settlement business, down to 2 hours a week and not deal with any of the clients, and that eliminated all my stress. So now I can do what I really like doing, the tax strategies in real estate. And what I realized, because I was considering maybe I got to go to work for somebody. And if that's the case, I'll be an entrepreneur and I'll do sales. And I have a friend that his salespeople are making $1 million a year. A lot of them, $1 million a year.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, become an entrepreneur and then start investing in real estate.
Yeah.
And just like you're talking with the doctor. So that way the job, the W-2, you do it because you like to. It's like 100%. When I was a fireman, I did it because I liked to, and I only left because they created a policy that firefighters couldn't have businesses anymore.
Right.
And if they found out you were doing anything at work on the fire department with your business, they would fire you.
Yep.
And how do you run a construction company with 26 crews and don't answer your phone for 48 hours at a time?
Right.
At the time, I was young. So I was
Well,
like,
yeah.
well, I
Yeah.
guess I'm not going to be a fireman
Right.
anymore.
Right.
Because I didn't need it for income. I did it because I love doing it. But it was because I worked on myself. And this weekend, when I was at my sister's house, her brother was there, and he's 5 years younger than me. And he brought up some memories and reminded me of things that my stepdad had done to me, my siblings, and then him as well, because his mom and dad dropped him off for the summer thinking it would fix their problems with their teenage boy, with the psychopath that spent time in the prison for murdering someone. They thought, oh yeah, this would be a great place to drop your kid off. But he had told me some stories that I completely forgot. And he was telling me, like, his brain, he remembers all the trauma. Well, my brain is, I don't remember a lot of trauma. That's just how it works.
Right.
And what he said to me, though, that was interesting, not the trauma part, because I've dealt with all that. But he said, you know what was interesting when we were kids, because it was a shack.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I've ever showed you pictures of that shack.
You have.
But behind it was a barn. And I had built this little clubhouse, if you will. And he said, he goes, I snuck up there one time because I saw you go up there. Because I didn't tell my siblings about it. And I didn't tell my parents about it because I knew what would happen. They would take it away from me. And he said, you had it full of books. And we were trying to figure out where you were because you would disappear in the day. And so I would go up there in this loft. And in the summer, it'd be extremely hot. It was like a sauna. But it was my little special safe place, back when safe places actually meant something.
Right.
And I would read. And I just completely forgot about it until he brought it up this weekend. I'm like, oh, yeah, I used to like get all these books at the library because, we didn't have any money. And I would hide them from my stepdad because he would take them away. And reading, I've always been a big reader. And I have a rule now where I read 10 pages every single day.
Yep.
And I do that probably 90% of the time. But if you read 10 pages a day, the average book is less than 300 pages. That's one book a month.
Yep.
That's 12 books a year.
Yep.
And it starts stacking. The average person reads less than one book after high school or college. Personal development. Right?
Yeah.
So what I'm getting at is, what's a few, because I hate that when people are like, what's the most important thing, or what's your favorite? What's a list of books that you'd recommend to somebody?
Well, I mean, I think one of the things that, and I think this list changes all the time as my journey continues. But, with working with Mike, one of the books that has been the most impactful this year is Buy Back Your Time. Okay. Because what I'm really looking at is, what do I do well that I enjoy? That's all I want to focus on, right? Well, that means that there are things that I do well that I don't enjoy that I've got to find somebody else for. So I've got to be involved enough to get that outsourced to the right person, make sure it's handled right. But what that does is that's bought back more time for me. And I start my morning at about 5:30, sauna, cold plunge, just like you. And then I get to spend an hour and a half reading. That's how I start my day, because I know the value of that, right? It starts with the Bible. Then I go to some other reading that I want about improvement. But Buy Back Your Time has really set me up on that journey. So you kind of, you look at it and go, what is it that I want out of this season of my life? The one that meant the most to me last year was Chris Voss's book, Never Split the Difference. Yeah. And I've had lunch with that guy. He is so funny because he's really kind of dry.
Yeah.
But I think if I'm going to be a hostage negotiator, my sense of humor is going to kill people. It's not going to help anybody get out of the situation, right? But looking at those kinds of things, I think that anything that helps you understand who you are and what you want is fantastic. The One Thing was another great book. There are a lot there. And the other thing that I've also realized this year is I have to read for enjoyment. I love working on myself. I love getting better at what I do, but I have to read just for enjoyment. When we went to Mexico, I picked up a paperback in the airport, read it on the way down, was done with it by the time I got back, just for fun, because you can't always be diving down that rabbit hole. Obviously, if you're going to be dealing with investment, Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a fantastic book. It's kind of a no-brainer. But there's just, there's so many that fit at different times as far as what you're doing and how you're getting there. But I would definitely recommend starting with something like Buy Back Your Time, so you can free up more time to then grow yourself personally.
Yeah, that's all of those books are great.
Do you have collections, charge-offs, even repos on your credit report? Let me tell you what not to do. Don't ignore it and don't overpay it. See, most people either panic or they pay full price, or they bury their head in the sand and let their credit rot until they get sued. At Fortress, we help you restructure your debt, settle it for a fraction of what you owe. And because of the way we negotiate with the banks and the collection companies, we often can get it removed from your credit report as well. Now, a lot of the time, the creditor will agree to delete it up front. This isn't a trick, it's a strategy. So click the link in the bio to learn more, or go to fortressu.com.
My son in my relationship is a lot like your son in your relationship. There was a time where I didn't exist. He wanted nothing to do with me. Yeah. And now that he's 30,
right,
and he'll be 31 in August, it's different how wise I became.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so now he's calling for life advice.
No more.
Yeah. He had an interview, and you reminded me, he had an interview with Chris Voss to go work for Chris doing sales.
Yeah.
So I forgot to ask him how his interview went.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's not the interview you got to worry about. It's salary negotiation that's going to be the tough one,
I told him, I said, look, if you have the opportunity to go work for Chris, because he's just he did sales for me, and he's been doing sales. I said, if you have the opportunity to work for Chris's team, and he's going to train you on sales and negotiation, it doesn't matter what the salary is.
No,
you just go work for Chris.
It doesn't.
Because that is that's an infinite amount of return.
Absolutely.
It just whether it was going to fit. He's got a little bit of Asperger's, so it just whether it fits with his personality.
Yeah.
There. But I have a lot of books that I'm reading that I've read, and I have a whole list. So if you're watching or listening and you want a list of my books, you can go to rondilambeth.com or click on any of the social media links, and there's a book of there's a list of the books that I recommend. Some same ones that you recommend.
Yep.
What I'm reading right now is Story Sells by Matthew Dix, and it's how to become a better storyteller. And when you get done with whatever book you're reading now, I highly recommend
I will do that.
Because I'm trying to eliminate the word "but" from my entire vocabulary. I hate that word right now. The reason I recommend that book is you said you really want to build up your syndication with investors and bring in more money. At least that's what I heard.
Yeah, share the opportunity with more people.
Yeah, share the opportunity more.
Yeah.
And the number one way to bring in more money is get better at telling stories, because people make decisions on stories and they remember stories. They don't remember the slides.
Yeah.
They don't remember the profit margins.
Well, and I had
charts.
I had a guy that came into my calendar first of the year that was, a $2 million investment. We get on the Zoom call. He knows me. He knows my stories. He's telling me, is this like that story? Is this like that story? Yeah. And I'm like, I haven't had a stalker, and I don't want one. But this was kind of like that, where I just felt like this person knew me and I was at a disadvantage, but because a lot of what I do is tell the story of how I got here. What did this one do? There's another great book that I read a long time ago that is Sometimes You Win, Sometimes You Learn.
Yeah,
and
I haven't read that one.
It is a fantastic book, and it's about understanding that you've got to look at it and go, I didn't win. That doesn't mean it gets thrown in the rubbish bin. It means that what did you learn because you paid a price. When you win, it's easy to remember that. But you can repeat the same steps again and again. Sometimes it works in real estate. Sometimes it works in business, and other times it doesn't. And when you can understand that, you can apply a different lens. And that's been kind of a philosophy that I've had in my life a lot. And unfortunately, I'm drawing a blank on who the author was, but I'll get it to you after we're done here, because I can see his face, but I'm drawing a blank. But he is one of the most. He has written more books on business building, financial stuff than anybody else. They haven't sold the kind of numbers that Robert Kiyosaki has, but fantastic author.
Look that one up. I absolutely love reading. One of my hacks is I will read in the morning, and then when I do my ruck, I'll listen to the same chapter on Audible. And I usually listen about 2.5 to 3 times speed because I read very fast.
Yep.
And so that, especially if it's a book that I really am into, because by reading and listening to the same thing, it's almost like I'm finishing his sentence if I read it first.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll get a little further ahead on my ruck for 45 minutes. So then the next day I'll read what I listened to the day before.
Well, and it's also a great sales tactic that Alex Hormozi uses in all of his books.
Yeah.
Before you get started, I recommend that you listen to this and read this. Yeah. Here's where you go to buy this. So now he's sold you the Audible and he sold you the book, right?
Alex is funny. He's the one that after my heart attack, I reached out to him and said, look, I've helped hundreds of thousands of people with their credit. I love what I do. It does make a difference in people's lives. I just can't handle the stress from it. And he said, Rondi, your problem is you are selling a great service to people who have no money or broke.
Yeah.
You need to get a service that sells to rich people. So start solving rich people's problems.
They pay better.
They pay better. They pay
a
so
lot
much better.
Yeah.
You said stalker earlier. I have a stalker. I've had a few of them.
Yeah.
This one's been around since I spoke at an event. Albert Preciado put it on. Grant Cardone was there. Patrick Bet-David was there. The Hardest Man, David Goggins was there. And so I spoke that year in 2017. She'd been stalking me for 8 years. And the reason that I used to post on social where I was staying, like if I went and spoke at an event, I'd say, hey, I'm here at, like the last one, I was here in Houston at Credit Con. If you're in town, let's have lunch, dinner, whatever. I used to do that. I don't do that anymore.
Right.
Because she would show up. It's
free lunch. You promised.
I remember I was leaving an event in Vegas, and here she came with her suitcase. And then she's like, oh, all the rooms are sold out. I have nowhere to stay. I'm like, I'm on my way to the airport.
Yeah.
So now stalkers are scary.
Yeah.
My friend Andy Frisella had a stalker. He went out. Fortunately, he's got bodyguards now because of how many stalkers he has. And it's not because Andy can't take care of himself. I mean,
right.
He's your height and he's got about 100 pounds on you.
Yeah.
I mean,
but it's all muscle.
It's all muscle.
Yeah.
But he's got bodyguards now and security team at his house. And he said it was lucky that the security team found this stalker hiding in so he's got this barn that he made into a man cave, if you want, where he's got his cars and his cigars. And he said, lucky the security guy found him because Andy probably would have shot him.
Yeah.
And I pointed this out.
Then you've got all that to deal with, right?
And then you got to deal with all of that.
When you look at your calendar, it's already full.
I know.
Where do you put in there that kind of stuff?
Yeah. When I first started dating Amanda, it took her a while to get used to me having a gun all the time. Like I don't have one on me right now, but there's one very close to me.
Yeah.
And so so it took her time because she never really, even though her family is, her family is her father and her grandfather are in the family from Chicago and finance Vegas. So you can kind of figure out what family she grew up in.
Your average,
just your average everyday Italian
family.
The
suburbs.
From the suburbs.
Yeah.
But she never grew up around guns. So from California, they retired. And so it took her a while. And the other day I showed her I'd said something about this stalker that broke into Andy's house. And I'm like, man, they're lucky that Andy wasn't there because he would have shot him because Andy's always carrying. And she goes, really? I said, yeah. Have you never noticed it? Every single day he posts, he's doing this on purpose now. Every day he, in his cars, because he's a big car guy, he will take the phone and he goes over to the passenger seat. And it's not to show off that he's in a $5 million car. And he always goes to the passenger seat. And every day there's a Glock 9mm sitting right there on his. And I think he's doing that. Like, I'm just telling you, it's out there.
Yeah.
I did a back to the tax thing. My former spouse and I were spending a lot of money at Front Sight. I think you remember at Front Sight as well.
Yep.
And a lot of time with guns. I was buying a lot of guns. This was right after Obama got elected, and guns and ammo, and I wanted to make it tax deductible. So instead of saying, can I deduct the gun? I said, how can I? So we created a firearms training school.
I remember that.
And now all my guns and ammo is tax deductible.
Yep.
But I was on a tax Zoom call earlier today, and there's actually part in the IRS code that I didn't know about, that as business owners, we can write off security teams. So I knew you could hire a security guard, because I have friends that do that. They hire their spouse or their as security at their events. But there's actually part of the code that you and I, as the business owner, can pay for our personal security as long as it's reasonable and necessary, which with my stalker, I can prove it is reasonable and necessary. And this part of the IRS code allows you to write off ammo and firearms for personal security.
Well, I have a friend of mine that has a $65,000 dog that at the drop of a hat will make mincemeat out of you.
Yeah.
That is his wife's personal security.
Yeah.
She is the sweetest dog in the world until something comes out of her mouth in some other language I don't understand. And that thing turns into a machine that will eat drywall and rocks. Right. But there again, it's those kinds of things that who would have thought, right?
Yeah,
getting a well-trained animal that can provide that, getting firearms that can provide that based on what you know.
And you can write off your animal if it's security. 100% you can. I mean, I don't write off Sawyer. He's not much of a security animal.
I mean, I might get licked to death.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I've every once in a while see videos online with animals, but like that a few months ago, my girlfriend went and had dinner with Charles. He's the founder of Cardano, which is the co-founder of Ethereum.
Right.
And she went to have dinner with the governor of Wyoming, and Charles was also a guest at this $15,000 plate dinner or whatever it cost was.
Yeah.
And she said Charles showed up with 5 Mossad guys and special operators. And the security team was saying, you can't bring your firearms in here with the governor. And they're like, then we're not staying. And they're like, no, we got this covered. He's like, I don't care what you got covered, but I'm not going in without my security team.
Right. We just saw in the news, right? The guy in New York that was tortured his business partner with a chainsaw to get his crypto password,
So this was
Crazy
about
world.
4 months ago. This never hit the news. So 4 months ago, another crypto guy was kidnapped and they cut his fingers off and sent it to the family. That's why Charles was walking around with 5 people. He's like, I don't care who you are or what you're saying. Either my guys can come in with guns or I'm not going in.
Right.
And so there's certain dogs that are trained, and I've been seeing them on Instagram because they figured that algorithm's got us figured out.
I'll send you the feed of where my buddy got his. It's pretty amazing. This guy's former special forces, trains a lot of military dogs.
Is it a German Shepherd?
It's the Malinois?
The Malinois. Those things are
65 pounds of missile, man. I mean,
there's a reason special ops teams use those dogs.
100%. 100%.
There's stories of those. I have friends that are special ops and SEAL team. In fact, my sister, her husband is retired a Navy SEAL on SEAL Team 6, and they use those dogs exclusively. Those things are monsters.
Yeah, but they have one of the best personalities. I mean, you would not know when you're around this dog that it has any of these tendencies. It's just a sweetheart.
Yeah.
But man, when you look in its eyes, it's looking at you,
Yeah.
but there's a calculator running in there giving you
Yeah.
Vegas odds of how long you live.
Yeah. I have a friend that he's also retired special ops guy. And for his service animal, the VA got him one of those.
Yeah.
And you're right. That dog's the sweetest dog.
Yeah.
And with that, when you look in that dog's eyes, like if you look in Sawyer's eyes, you just see nothing but love.
Yeah.
That dog is like, how many of you will I kill?
Yeah.
You know,
There's a switch in here, boys. How you want to touch it? You want to touch it?
A lot of that language, I think, is German. They teach them German.
Yeah.
And that would be a bad thing if you ever took that dog to Germany.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is you can't take it to Germany.
they have taught this dog a lot of things that I don't want to know
ever.
I don't want to find out that dog knows that stuff, right?
There's a guy I met when I was living in San Diego. He was a fish provider. So from South Africa, I don't know if he's still there with all the racism going on in South Africa right now and the murders, but very successful. And I met him at a fish place at a restaurant in San Diego. And then he came back to the house. We had barbecue and, had fun times. And then we've just stayed in touch.
Mm-hmm.
And he said in South Africa, he's got inside dogs and outside dogs. The outside dogs never come in. The inside dogs never go out other than do their business. And he said, it's because they need them, because people will sneak in. They climb over their 12-foot fence, and these dogs they're vicious. In fact, I was looking at getting a dog. In the last 2 weeks, I've lost 10 of my chickens.
Right.
And 4 of them were killed by raccoons. The other ones just fell over dead. I don't know why. And when a few weeks ago, I was down at the largest cattle ranch, regenerative cattle ranch, Will Harris's ranch in Georgia, and he has thousands of chickens. And when he brought in thousands of chickens to his ranch, the bald eagle showed up, and they were decimating them.
Yeah.
So now he uses these giant white, I think they're Pyrenees. There's some words I can't pronounce. Pyrenees or whatever. They're these
I'm gonna go with it.
White, shaggy dogs. They're called they're guard dogs. There's a special name for them, these type of dogs, but St. Bernards are in that in that thing. But they use them for sheep dogs, but they're protective dogs.
Yep.
And so these big dogs, these are like 120-pound big animals, sleep and live with these chickens. No more eagle problem.
Right.
No more raccoon problem. No more coyote problem.
Right.
Great Pyrenees is what they're called.
Yeah.
That's right. It's Great Pyrenees.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. So we covered tax. We covered real estate. We covered credit. Covered your kids, flying.
Covered foundations. We covered. Yeah.
I can't wait. I talked to your son.
Yeah.
He can't help me with my IFR, but he
Not
can
yet.
help me with getting recertified so I can start flying again.
Yep.
I have a.
He'll be another couple months, and he'll have his.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was going to be longer than that.
No, he's pounding it down. He's going through it. So
I look forward to helping him build a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Just back to the fishing guy.
Right.
If he's passionate about it, he could, if you're passionate about anything, my friend Joel Bauer says, turn your passion into profit.
Absolutely.
And then once your passion makes more money than your W-2, you can leave if you want to.
You have choices.
But I'm considering putting my plane in at Ponderosa.
Yeah.
Because it's advanced, high performance.
Yep.
And I'm not using it as much.
Yeah.
I haven't flown in.
Well, and the thing that's nice about it is it's right here at the Boise airport instead of being out south of town.
Oh. Okay.
It's getting used. It's getting regular maintenance. It's getting regular service. When was the last time you went through a whole tank of gas and filled it all the way back up? It's been a while because we go out for an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, we were out for 3 hours the other day, but that's unusual, so you're able to get a lot more going on with it. And, with your undercarriage, that needs to be moved up and down. It doesn't need to sit there and let the seals dry out.
Yeah.
So that's the advantage of all of that stuff. And again, you're providing a service to the community and you're making money on it.
Yep. Yeah. I can't wait to, I have your assistant sent me your flight, your doctor. So I have my physical schedule.
Higginbotham.
What's that?
Dr. Higginbotham.
Yeah. So I got that schedule. So now I can get recertified to start flying. Then your son's going to get me
your son's going to get me recertified, but the
Yep.
doctor approves it. So I think we covered everything.
Yeah, man.
Shannon, if someone has 100 grand laying around and they want to get some huge tax benefits, what's a cost seg, about 30 grand on $100,000 investment?
Yeah, I mean, just a rule of thumb, you can get about a third.
A third. So what that means is if you invest 100,000 with Shannon, that's a $30,000 write-off towards your passive income that you can get. So if anybody wanted to invest with you, whether it's for tax reasons or for what are some of your deals paying out? I know everyone's different, but
we've had things go for 104% in 18 months. We've done typically we're in the high teens.
Okay.
Depends on what you want. We like to sit down and decide: are you looking for cash flow? Are you looking for depreciation? What's your game right now? And help you create a strategy around that. If we've had some of your people come to us that says, "Hey, Rondi says this is my strategy. This is what I want." Well, we don't steer you toward this. We steer you toward that. But just ShannonRobnett.com is the easiest way to get a hold of me. You can find us there. We got a calendar link. You can get directly onto my calendar. We'd be happy to chat with you.
So ShannonRobnett.com. It's also going to be in the show notes. Shannon's so much fun.
It's always good to see you, Rondi.
I see you squirming a little bit. You got to pee?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
All right, let's take off. Thanks,
All right.
Shannon.